On Saturday, we saw the first signs of an ease of restrictions in Gibraltar with the reopening of a few shops down Main Street. Today, Monday, we find ourselves at the top of a very important week, one which could determine our future course. With the reopening of shops, today we've seen an increased number of cross-frontier workers coming into Gibraltar, and they found themselves with a new measure in place which will help to identify positive cases of COVID-19.
It's a trial period because we're looking at thermal images, how we can introduce thermal images into the whole COVID measures, trying to identify individuals which might have a temperature. So today's sort of the first trial. And speaking with Borders and Coastguards, we identified there will be a good day because we identified there will be an influx of pedestrians and vehicles coming through. And what we've actually positioned one of the thermal images on the pedestrian aisle to see how it works and see its functionality in relation to trying to identify those individuals which might bring a temperature. It allows the officer to continue doing its normal function, and if in case the thermal imager identifies a particular heat, then it will notify the officer through an alarm system. It will be focusing on the people as they come in. And as groups of individuals come in, the thermal imager will start identifying each particular individual on its own. That's the image which is picked up on the laptop. And as you see the different temperatures as individuals come across, it starts to pick up different individuals. You can see 35.6, 35.6 again. If the thermal imager picks up a particular temperature, which is 37.2, the alarm would go off, and that would notify the officer that he needs, and then a colleague would deal with that particular individual. We're still looking at, as I said before, it's a trial period, so we're looking at the policy and protocols which we're going to apply once we get a hit. We have further meetings this morning with the different agencies to understand how we're going to deal with this particular issue. Clearly, the legislation will give us the powers to be able to deal with if we find ourselves in that situation. But we're going to, as I said before, there'll be further discussions today to identify, the exact protocol, because there'll be an element of PPE for the officer which has to deal with that particular individual, and then whatever strategy we take from there.
And what's the margin on this? If
a person doesn't have any symptoms, that's obviously we will not get a hit. And that's sort of the area of margin. Beyond that, if the thermal imager is working fine, is calibrated, it shouldn't be a problem. But again, as I said before, it's not fail-proof. It's just a mitigating, trying to mitigate against COVID-19 rather than a perfect solution.
And today we see this at the frontier. I believe this has already been rolled out or being tested at other sites across Gibraltar, right?
Today is the first time it's been used. Eventually, all the different agencies, as a result of the Direction for Public Health, we are confident all the other agencies will see value in this particular tool and will employ it in different entry points. We know that the GHA, an organisation itself, is looking at how to employ this as well. We know Customs are interested in, Royal Gibraltar Police, obviously Borders and Coastguards, and even Air Terminal Management are also looking at it. So, we're confident that it will be employed across Gibraltar.
And then will the agency perhaps be assisting the private sector who might be looking at this?
There's different suppliers. This is just one model. It's there in the market. It's available to anybody who wants to purchase it. From a civil continuous perspective, obviously based on the advice of the Director of Public Health, we recommend it, especially in big organisations.
The new strategy announced by Dr. Sohail Bhatti: spot, isolate and seclude. The greater freedom of the many will depend on seclusion for the few.